All right. Oh, getting old. So this is Cliff. I'm finally on my personal channel. My goodness. That was an experiment gone wrong with the university's attempt or whoever was doing it. I assume Solgen. Um, yeah. If you spend more time as an educator outside of the class, you're not educating. Should be an easy process. All you need to do is brainstorm nowadays, think of the best way to educate, and then facilitate and accomplish it in the classroom. So hopefully all the kinks are out of our first term for many of us in our first month here. So this is Cliff Tom, and it is coming up on the hour at 5 p.m. Bangkok time. So I think that's what we would call it, Bangkok time. So I'm going to share my screen now so you don't see my ugly face. Move that over. Let's see if anyone comes in. I'll wait the standard 15, but it's just too time consuming and it's not efficient using the Solgen system. Too many individuals, too many online classes. Online education is wonderful. I'm not sure 26 students without in a generalized English class at this level is not appropriate, because they are definitely beginners minus. But that's no fault of theirs. That's just where they are. And of course, with the virus over the last 3 years, I'm sure they didn't have any foreign, any native English speaking guidance, right? And then you just don't practice. So the students I find are wonderful. I love the students. Everything's great. It's just a matter of tailoring each class for each student. Not for each, well, for each student, you would love to do that, but to assess the level and then how to bring them up appropriately. So, all right, again, we'll see how many students show up. Hopefully this was given to them. If not, I'm going to email them in a mass email. Instant messaging is horrible for native readers. It's diluted language, but especially group chats, not only for natives, but then for non-natives, it's just gobbledygook or gibberish. It's incomprehensible, and it just becomes asinine and insane. So the one-way communication for a large group of students, I think, is still best. A weekly heads up, right, of what we're doing, what we're accomplishing. So I will remind myself to do my ID, add the ID for the students. So if anything, this is my assessment. If this cuts short, would be my assessment of what's transpired thus far with Walailak, the classes, and Solgen. So the books, all due respect, whoever put those together, but to be honest, worthless. And they're not even books, right? It's just digital cut and paste. Again, all respect to whoever spent whatever amount of time doing it, but it's not at the student's level, and it's just not appropriate. It's just not good, period. So Yeah, again, sorry, whoever put their name on it or whose name was put on it. But there are much better books that the university could purchase. Cambridge, Oxford, the two British universities, famed universities, would be a better purchase for these students. So throw that out the window. That is just absolutely, they're now good. So, okay, so no students as of yet, not a surprise. I wonder if it got to them or not. But yeah, so it's a pleasure. I think at this stage, they're all 18 freshmen, right? At least with beginning plus rudimentary, if any, right? English ability. So to get them to an international English just competency is to read, comprehend English, reading and listening, right? So you don't know if you're not listening, if you don't know what's given to you, it's talking about gobbledygook, say that 4 times really quickly, but then it's all doesn't make any sense. So that's issue number one. The second issue, right, is either temerity or no, temerity is not the word. Being timidity. Let me look that up. Temerity is a virtue. Yes, excessive confidence, that's a virtue, but being timid, and then can you use that in a timidity? Yeah, sure. Is there timidity, right? Lack of, I learned that briefly in Thai, but their lack of wanting to do it. So that's where I feel like it's more psychological at this point for we educators, for we Anjan here at the Walailak, is to motivate them to just do it. Because at this level, at 18, if we're just trying to get them to be able to comprehend, speak, and know what's going on in international English, the best way moving forward is to have them do it, actually do it. So show the classic explain, do, right? Show, do, or tell, show, and do, and have them do it, right? Otherwise, wow, yeah, these definitely aren't the books. You would need a building block approach to educating them. So like ABCs, like, and I'm a fan of Oxford books. Those are, I think, pretty decent, pretty good, where it would just be ABC, these colors and so forth. Otherwise this book, like, yeah, we could go on. Yeah. And then there were these digital books, and also bad grammar too, English grammar. So speaking and comprehension and reading and writing, right? And for them to pronunciate well. So I'll continue. I always give 15 minutes for students, and then for them, if I don't show up in 15 minutes today, I got confused again with the classrooms, but I hustled over and made it. But it's always a 15-minute mutual window. And apologies to my Wednesday students, whoever you are, I'm going to shame you for miscommunicating, but I get it. It's like, that's the language barrier. That's why I learned Chinese, to communicate better with my students, but we'll get there. but definitely not through these books. And they're not books, right? That's an antiquated word through these images that happen to be digitally disseminated. So, and even if it's, and then the use of technology is wonderful if we can use it appropriately. For instance, I'm just a stubborn old American English first man. I learned other languages, but I'm very hesitant. I've got a lot of timidity to type in any foreign language, and because I feel not only it's like embarrassing, I feel disrespectful. Maybe because I've published a book. I've now right. Hold on, let me turn this up. Oh. That was for my son, to coach my son. So whoever's listening at this point, but I'm definitely going to publish this. So this will be Cliff's, teacher Cliff's, I'm John Cliff's theory on what's on the first month of fall term here at wonderful Walailak University. Everything's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's the closest to Nirvana. It's really good. It's great. It's just how this was set up. So, but my class, I think we'll all get there. We'll all progress. It's attendance is good. Effort is great. So it's just, and then hopefully I can learn some Thai from you. But to go back into the writing and speaking part, it's very difficult. I understand that. So why not try to, you need to master what I've said previously. If you want to go back in my channels, if you're watching this on my YouTube channels, go back to the previous week to where you want to start off learning the best way. And then you can tailor down to chicken scratch. So how can I, and what's analogous to this, right? So an analogy would be an athlete, right? Practicing a sport and learning a sport, like at a complete with kindy age individuals, kindergarten students, right? So if an athlete, like an 18-year-old athlete, practicing with 3-year-olds, do you understand what I'm saying, right? So you want to practice the best with the best, and then we would say, dumb down a conversation or dumb down the level of work. Otherwise, why are we here? What are we doing? Right. So we'd like to think the experts. I would consider myself an expert in the English language, a master's plus from a native English speaking country, right? So I'm definitely an expert, especially, no disrespect to my students compared to my students. So you would want to learn the best way to do this from me, rather than just jumping right into a line conversation where I don't even think line has a translation of a feature, right? I don't think Messenger does, for whatever reason. So to have all these, it's lunacy. Okay. So I think we're all over this now. There's no matrix. There shouldn't be a matrix because these books are just awful. So the matrix should be, have the kids progressed, right? Have the students progressed from day one to the end of term or whatever the grading period. That's how teachers That's how we Anjan should be judged. All right. So now I'll talk about last 5 minutes. I'm sure this wasn't given to the students. That's all right. So this is in talking about the reading, writing, speaking. Okay. So speaking, obviously, any language is important. And it's all for opening up one's minds too. I've touched on this in an email to students. Plasticity, right? So even though we've got these wonderful features online to translate and to AI, like these are okay. The book, going back, the book is rote learning, and it's not even rote. It's easily answerable. It's something you could put into AI, artificial intelligence, to get that answer. So as educators now, we not only have to hold our subject matter to a standard and teach the best, or again, what is this good for? And AI, in terms of not trying to beat AI, but working with artificial intelligence to get the students to think, critically think. I hate to use all of these coined phrases, but it's critical thinking in everything. Again, 1+1, you just talk to Google. It's not days of old where you're in the jungle, in a one-room jungle, wherever you're at, in a classroom with a book and no iPads or phones. All my students bring those, and it's wonderful, by any means necessary. And then to piggyback on that, to have them use that, right? I didn't finish off before I was distracted. To have them use technology in different languages, to be flexible to do that, that is wonderful. I'm not so fortunate, but hopefully I can provide that to them. So if they are in Bangkok or working for an international company or doing something internationally where English is the #1 language, then they can easily float around on their device on whatever it is in the future, right? Talking to hopefully individuals' future Anjan and students from 2033. To look back and how I'm sure YouTube will still be around in some form or fashion, but to look how education has changed. So what good, right? It's a constant argument. So do you just abolish? You say put up your phones and your laptops? No, because that's not reality. I would think that's a scary way of educating, because you're denying. It's like book burning, that you don't want the truth to come out, that you're prohibiting it. Because then they're just going to leave the classroom and jump right back into their phones anyway. Right? So I say use technology to the utmost, but effectively, as we've seen this past month. This is however, this communication with Solgen is going on is not the most effective. And a lot has to do with the heat, and I understand coordination with the university, sure. However, I would definitely, my recommendations, now that I'm coming up on 15 minutes and no students, so that's all right. So I'm going to end it for this evening, is to, my recommendation, abolish whatever, these books are nonsense, right? They're worthless. Actually, a detriment. I think it's actually worse if we're using them. Get rid of that. Just do a template, right? I think it's wonderful to use those. If we want a matrix or a metrics, use specifically YouTube, or we could create our own comprehension at the beginning of class, get them focused in on English, right? And I've shared this with Solgen again. So get them tuned in, listening, because they're not listening. They're obviously speaking Thai. Get them tuned in to listening. So for the first 15, 20 minutes, right? And then also gets them to class, right? I realize I appreciate the laid back approach. I don't know, why exactly so many students are, arrive 20, 30 minutes late, but that's so be it. So then that will, right, and then have them email it to us as teachers, right? So we could have those grades. That's the one facet. Then I would have them read with the instructor. Now I realize everyone needs a job, but right, you would generally want an international English accent, sure enough, right, to help guide another international English accent. Okay. So the issue when it does come to non-native English speakers is the dilution, right, of the accent, because they're not thinking in English, they might thinking in another language. So it's always best to read alongside of a guide, a native language guide, to help keep that language comprehensible and intelligible. That said, my class could be here. No, of course not. So my ID wasn't disseminated. So I could just see like a bizarre Solgen email and then sending this on. So that is the issue, right? Is how we're creating these classes for this level and for these students. So do that initially for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Then do the reading, right? That's another soft set portion or plan within a lesson within the plan. Then if the books, if we don't have an Oxford or a Cambridge or something that is good, then you do either a practicum, a speaking practicum, right? I would say, because we have these students twice a week, or we do a written one, right? So you do one or the other, you bounce it around. And do something applicable at the beginning, something easy, right? If they go to a restaurant, even in Bangkok, right, all the servers, if they own a restaurant, they have a restaurant, they need to know international English, and then you work it up from there. And I have a wonderful, this is a huge health educational university, a wonderful hospital here right near us. To then you go to a doctor, right, or a nurse has to know international English. Then do a skit about that. That's the best way. Otherwise, this is like it's playing a ridiculous game. Again, I hate to denigrate that book, but it's ask the students. See, right? If they think it's good. Yeah. So that's about it for me. So this is my thesis or theorem on how to progress the great Walailak freshmen or sophomores, if we have some sophomores, international English abilities. All right, this is Cliff Tom signing off. This was July 13th, Thursday. I'll date it on YouTube. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.